At 23 minutes past 1 in the morning, a man pressed a red button. It was the emergency button, the one that shuts the reactor down. That button is what made it explode. This is not a legend. It's what the report says. My name is Richard. I'm a time traveler, but I don't travel to just any moment, only to the last hours. I arrive at the end. I can walk among them. I can watch. I can never warn. This time the watch reads 24 hours, and this time there is something worse. I am not the only one who knew what was coming. Somebody else knew, and they decided not to warn them either. This is Pripyat, Soviet Ukraine, the 25th of April, 1986. Pripyat is not an old town. It is a designed city, built 16 years ago for the people of the power plant. Almost 50,000 of them. The average age is 26. It is the youngest city in the Soviet Union. 15 nurseries, an indoor pool, a cinema, and in the square, a brand new fairground with a yellow Ferris wheel opening on the 1st of May, 5 days from now. At 6 minutes past 1 in the morning, in reactor number 4, a routine power reduction has begun. They are going to run a safety test. Nobody in this city knows. And why would they? It's a test. They've done them before. The question that will kill this city is not whether the test was dangerous. It's what time they ran it. 2 in the afternoon. 11 hours left. In the control room, they isolate the emergency core cooling system. It's in the procedure. The test requires it. And then a telephone rings. It's the electricity grid controller in Kyiv. It's Friday afternoon, and the region needs power. He asks them not to shut down yet, and the plant obeys. The reactor sits at 1,600 megawatts, emergency cooling disconnected, waiting for permission. 9 hours of waiting. This is where everything is decided, and almost nobody tells it. The day shift had prepared that test. They had studied it. They knew what to do. But after 9 hours of waiting, that shift clocks off and goes home. The test will be run by the night shift. Competent people, yes, but people who came to work thinking nothing special would happen that night. A phone call over a spike in electricity demand has just decided who will be in that room. I'm standing behind them when they hang up the phone, and I can't say anything. 10 past 11 at night. The reduction resumes. 5 past midnight. 720 megawatts, all normal. And at 28 minutes past midnight, something slips. During the switch to automatic control, the power collapses. It doesn't drop, it falls to 30 megawatts. A 3,200 megawatt reactor, down to 30. Whether that was human error or a system fault is still disputed. What is not disputed is what happens inside the core. At that power, the reactor poisons itself. A gas builds up, xenon, that swallows neutrons and smothers the reaction. The reactor is shutting itself down and does not want to come back up. What should happen here is simple. Stop. Leave it. Run the test another day. But they have been at this for 23 hours. The test has been pending for years, and nobody wants to be the one who cancels it. 1 in the morning, 23 minutes left. They managed to bring the power up to 200 megawatts and hold it there. Still a seventh of the minimum the test requires. To keep it there, they withdraw control rods from the core. The rods are what slows the reaction. The fewer inside, the looser the reactor. Regulations require at least 15 to remain. Half a minute before the test begins, later calculations will say 8 remained. And now the part you have to understand, because it's the part that kills. Those control rods were not solid absorber. The final 1.25 meters of every rod was graphite, a design compromise to shorten the mechanism. Graphite does not slow the reaction, it accelerates it. Which means, as the rods go in, for the first instant, the reactor doesn't break. It surges. And that flaw was not a secret to everyone. It had appeared in an accident at the Leningrad plant in 1975, and again in a test in 1983. The reports were classified. The men in this room tonight were never told. I arrive at the end of things and I cannot warn. That is my sentence. What I did not expect was to find a place where somebody, with a name and a surname, could have warned, and decided it was better they didn't know. 1:23 and 4 seconds. The test begins. They close the steam to the turbine and let it spin down on its own. The water cooling the core starts moving more slowly. Steam forms, and in this reactor, more steam means more power, and more power means more steam. 36 seconds later, someone sees what is happening on the gauges and does the only thing that can be done. 1:23:40. He presses AZ5, the emergency shutdown. The rods begin to descend, and they go in tip first, graphite first. 3 seconds. The power passes 530 megawatts and keeps climbing while the needle runs out of scale. The rods jam halfway down, and at 24 minutes past 1, 2 explosions. The first tears the core apart. The second throws the reactor lid into the air. 2,000 tons of steel and concrete, which come back down on edge. The sky over Pripyat turns blue. That is not poetic license. It is air ionizing above an open reactor. It is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen, and I should not be looking at it. The watch stops. The firefighters arrive within minutes. More than 100 come that night. Some 69 fight the fire. They climb onto the roof. They are putting out what they believe is an electrical fire. Nobody has told them otherwise, because nobody above will yet admit the reactor is open. On the roof, there are black stones, pieces of a material that should not be out here. It is graphite from the core. Some of them move it with their hands. They said the air tasted of metal. I am on that roof. They are beside me. Some of them are 23 years old, and I cannot tell them they are already dead. At 10 past 2 and at 20 past 2, the roof fires are contained. By 5 in the morning, out. They have saved the plant. They have stopped the other 3 reactors from burning. Almost none of them will ever know it. Dawn. It is Saturday, the 26th of April, and Pripyat gets up like any other Saturday. The children walk to school because in the Soviet Union, there are classes on Saturday. There are weddings booked for that weekend. There are people sunbathing on balconies because it is a beautiful day. On the railway bridge, neighbors stand watching the column of smoke from the plant. It is said that everyone who stood there died. That story is not verified, and I am not going to repeat it. What is true is what did not happen. Nobody told them anything. Not that morning, not that afternoon, not that night. 36 hours. On Sunday the 27th at 2 in the afternoon, the buses come into the city. A temporary evacuation is announced. 3 days, documents and little else. Almost 50,000 people leave home believing they'll be back on Wednesday. Not one of them came back. And on the 1st of May in the square, the yellow Ferris wheel of the new fairgrounds stood still. It never opened. It never turned once with a child inside. It is the only thing in this city that was never used at all. But there was something worse still, and almost nobody knows it. Beneath the reactor, in the basements, there are tanks full of water, and above them, the molten core, sinking slowly. If that mass reaches the water, the steam explosion would be far larger than the first. Some valves have to be opened, and they are underwater, in the dark, in the basement of an open reactor. 3 men go down: Alexei Anonenko, Valery Bespalov, and Boris Baranov. This is where the legend takes over the history. It is said that they died within days, burned by the radiation. It is not true. All 3 came out. All three lived. Baranov died in 2005, almost 20 years later, of a heart condition. The other two are still alive. In 2019, all three were named Heroes of Ukraine. And Ananyenko himself has dismissed even the heroic part. He says they were not volunteers throwing themselves at certain death. They were, quite simply, the ones who knew where those valves were. It is a less epic story, and it is far better, because it's true. 31 people died as a direct result of the accident. Nobody disputes that number. 2 in the explosion, 28 from acute radiation syndrome in the weeks that followed, and 1 of a heart attack. The rest is disputed, and heavily. The World Health Organization and the United Nations Scientific Committee estimate around 4,000 long-term cancer deaths. Other models put the figure as high as 60,000. Greenpeace spoke of 90,000. I'm not going to choose for you. I'll only tell you this. Anyone who gives you a single figure with no range is telling you something other than the truth. What is measured is some 6,000 thyroid cancers in children and adolescents exposed at the time. Pripyat is still there. The trees have come into the buildings. There are animals on the staircases. And the Ferris wheel is still yellow. I come for them. Not to change what happened because I can't. I come so that someone remembers them not as a figure, but as what they were. Firefighters of 23, brides who were marrying that weekend, children who had been promised a Ferris wheel, and the watch starts again. Somewhere tonight, somebody has decided that it's better you don't know. You just walked the last hours of Chernobyl.